This is WFYI News Now. It's January 2nd, and I'm Zach Bundy. On today's show, a coal producer and a renewable energy company team up to put solar and battery storage on reclaimed mine land. Buy now, pay later products have become more common. And the deadline has passed for Indianapolis to obligate funds from the American Rescue Plan Act.
I think we've been able to implement programs and projects that without this funding, we would have never had the flexibility to try something on this level.
Those stories coming up, but first. A police chase in Indianapolis ended with officers shooting and killing a man Monday afternoon. It started when Lawrence police attempted a traffic stop on Pendleton Pike. A female passenger exited the car, but the male driver fled, leading to a chase with gunfire directed at officers. The pursuit ended on East 30th Street, where police fired their weapons. The suspect was found dead inside the vehicle, and a gun was recovered. This marks the 17th police shooting of 2024 involving Indianapolis officers, slightly fewer than the 18 reported in 2023, the highest in recent years. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department is under review by the U.S. Department of Justice, which is examining policies and practices to address the spike. Investigations into Monday's shooting are underway by IMPD, and the Marion County Prosecutor's Office are ongoing. Officers involved were placed on leave. A coal producer and a renewable energy company team up to put solar and battery storage on reclaimed mine land in Indiana and Illinois. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports RWE Clean Energy and Peabody Energy hope to generate more than 5.5 gigawatts of electricity, enough to power 850,000 homes.
That's nearly 5 times as much energy as what the Mammoth Solar Project in Pulaski County will produce once finished. Peabody says the partnership helps the company to sustain itself and continue its work in reclaiming mine land, and it gives RWE a willing landowner. Here's CEO Andrew Flanagan.
That is where the reclaimed mining lands becomes a tremendous upside of benefit, where really create a win-win with the local communities.
Though Flanagan says some of the panels will still have to be on private land near the reclaimed mines. The companies haven't identified buyers for the solar yet, but say there's no shortage in demand for renewable energy, particularly for large commercial and industrial customers like AI data centers. RWE says it hopes to have the solar projects up and running in 4 years. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
All but 4 of the projects announced so far would be in Indiana. Buy now, pay later products have become more common. Customers can pay a portion of the purchase price up front and then pay the rest in installments over several weeks with no interest. The Indiana Community Action Poverty Institute says buy now, pay later carries plenty of risk, particularly for low-income customers. The amount Americans spend on buy now, pay later products increased about 700% in roughly the last 4 years. Institute Research Coordinator Zia Saylor says there is obvious appeal to buy now, pay later, but she says there are also downsides, which often aren't made clear.
If you don't have sufficient funds to pay for something, then the buy now, pay later lender will continue to represent that charge, and they can do that up to 8 times, which is, very high in overdraft fees or non-sufficient funds fees that you will be charged by your bank.
More than a dozen states have taken steps to protect consumers who use these products. Indiana isn't one of them. Saylor says the state can require so-called installment lenders to be licensed.
These are really important ways to basically ensure that the state government is involved in regulating and ensuring that there's a level of compliance.
Saylor says buy now, pay later marketing should be more closely regulated, as many lenders advertise them as risk-free alternatives to credit. Saylor says these products do carry risk and can show up negatively on consumers' credit reports. And for our final story today, Indianapolis received nearly $420 million in American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds, during the pandemic. WFYI's Jill Sheridan reports the deadline for the money to be obligated was at the end of 2024.
The city says the entire $419,769,000 has been allocated for 125 active or completed programs. Indianapolis Controller Abby Hansen says the city has to show the federal government proof of purchase plans.
And so the actual way we do that in the city is through either a contract or a purchase order or the combination of both.
Federal spending guidelines were first focused on public health but grew following unrest around social justice issues the summer of 2020. The funds were earmarked for a wide range of programs, with the city focusing on 4 recovery priorities, including anti-violence, economic recovery, neighborhood investment, and government services. Funds that are not obligated would need to be returned to the federal government. I'm Jill Sheridan.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and filling in for Aubriana Herron, I'm your host, Zach Bundy. If you liked today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back tomorrow.